Avengers Infinity War is the latest crazy spectacle from Disney. It's breaking all the records. It's doing all the things. Does it deserve this praise, though? So I am here. Tony and I started the Road to Infinity series where we sat down, we reviewed all three phases of the MCU, starting with, phase one, where it all started with Iron Man, now all the way to Infinity War. We had great guests along the way as well. We had, Arturo Zarita from the ATZ show, Zuby, and Nick from Tasty Snackies to get us to this point. So now this is kind of the culmination piece, a little bit late, but better late than never. So joining me, of course, is my co-host, Mr. Tony Walters from Rad Entertainment. Let's talk Avengers.
Thanks, John, for having me. I'm really stoked to talk about this movie because I loved this movie. Like, from beginning to end, this is the movie I've been waiting for forever. I think I said that multiple times throughout our Road to Infinity, that this is the kind of movie that I've been waiting for since I was a kid, because I'm a huge comic book fan, and I always wanted to see a movie that was this grand scale, that took place in a Marvel event. Marvel does events almost every year in their comic book series. Right now, they are kind of doing an Infinity War type event, but they do all these events, and we've never been able to see something like this. We've always just gotten mainly origin stories for characters because it's for the general public. They need to know who these characters are. And Marvel, over the past 10 years, have built up their origins. They've introduced all these characters to the general public and are now able to take these characters and throw them into a giant Marvel event, such as Infinity War.
And that's the thing, like you said, and we've stated on this show before, is these are events. These are the big Super Bowls of the thing. And it seems like every contained movie, it has some kind of high stakes and all that. But this really set itself apart in the first 5 minutes. And we're going to get into, of course, full spoilers. This is the last time, you guys are warned, guys and gals are warned, full spoilers for Infinity War. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's you can't walk outside without seeing it at this point. Everyone's seen this film. But it's the highest stakes, and the tone is set in the first 5 minutes. I mean, that was just literally a punch in the gut right out of the gate.
Yeah, right off the bat, we get the end of Thor Ragnarok, the post credits scene. You got Thanos' ship showing up. All of the Asgardians are basically dead, but I think there's a line that says something about half of them are dead. But yeah, and then we get the big awesome fight with Thanos and the Hulk, and I love this fight scene so much because the Hulk gets his ass handed to him and is terrified throughout the rest of the film, which was I think it was a creative way to take the Hulk out of play, just because, if you have a Hulk, it does make things a little bit more challenging for Thanos. So to scare the Hulk so bad, I think it was a nice creative way to kind of nerf the Avengers a little bit.
Yeah, and with Ebony Maw's just like right, he like turns to his little friend, or his Hulk, his version of the Hulk. He's just like, no, let him have his fun. And you could see Hulk kind of surprises Thanos a little bit, starts beating the crap out of him. But then it didn't even, you saw it, just something click in him, and Thanos just completely takes him to town. And there was some cool imagery in that scene too, because some of that is straight from Infinity War comic book, right?
Not necessarily. The thing that they changed drastically, at least in that opening sequence, is the way that the comic opens is it's Silver Surfer falling to Earth, and so they swapped out Silver Surfer with the Hulk.
Right.
So that sequence of him crashing through into Doctor Strange's place is straight from the comics, but it's the Silver Surfer, which I love that they did that. Like right when they launched the Hulk out of the ship, that's what my brain went immediately was, okay, so we're going to be using the Hulk for this as the messenger.
Sure, absolutely. And what did you think about kind of I mean, it says half of the Asgardians, but already probably pretty much half of them died in the invasion of Asgard with Hela and everything. It didn't look like there's absolutely any Asgardians left. I mean, right at the beginning of the movie, you see everyone dead. I don't even know where Homegirl went. I forgot her name, but
right.
The one from Ragnarok, is she just dead?
No, it's the directors came out and said that Valkyrie and the Rock Monster dude and like that kind of core Avenger group, whatever from Ragnarok, that they're alive, that they kind of escaped the ship before the events happened. So
Okay.
yeah, I think that that's a little bit, maybe because they were filming these movies around the same time or what. I'm not sure why they didn't like touch base on that, or maybe they just felt like they didn't need to. Like, because they're going to bring those characters back. They were very loved characters in Ragnarok, and I think that they just wanted to be like, they escaped somehow, whatever, move on.
Yeah. And what do you think about kind of his band of merry men, the Thanos' children, Ebony Maw and Proxima Midnight? I don't really recall the names of the other two, but it seems like they just weren't just kind of a band of merry men. They seem like they were really powerful kind of villains, especially, I mean, I think the fan favorite, right, is Ebony Maw. He was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. He's the first face that we see really in the opening scene, because you get the pan of all the bodies on the ground, and then like you hear the voice, and when it pans up, it's Ebony Maw. And there were a lot of really little kids in the theater when I went and saw this, and they were gasps from little kids. Like they were like they were scared of his face, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Well, and it's very like almost like World War II. It's that like almost propaganda thing, especially when he comes down to Earth and he's talking to Tony and Doctor Strange and everyone first, where he's just like, rejoice, it's okay, you guys get to die by the hand of Thanos and stuff like that. So he is just such a nightmare fuel kind of a villain, and it's kind of sad to see him go. But
he kind of goes like a chump, but
yeah, he does. He gets thrown out of an airlock.
Yeah, he kind of goes like a chump, but but yeah, definitely the most standout out of the Children of Thanos, or like the Black Order, I think is what they're called. Definitely a standout. All the other ones actually for me are kind of a little meh. They've got some cool moments, like I like when the Hulk-esque guy gets his arms chopped off by the portal, like that was kind of cool. But the other two, when they like fight Vision and Scarlet Witch, they kind of just kind of wimp out. It's like, we'll see you guys later. We're taking off. Like I felt like they gave up a little too easy, but
the Gray Goblin or what, I don't know that guy's name, but I mean he was going toe to toe with Vision and everything, and then for some reason Scarlet, or we're jumping around everywhere, but Black Widow could go head to head with someone like Proxima Midnight. I'm not 100% sure I bought that one, but I digress. It was a lot of fun. How the hell does the Russo brothers and okay, first off, before I say what I really thought about the movie and everything, you said it was great. Yeah. Okay, I guess I'll say I thought, and it might just be because I just came off of it, but I'd like to give myself a little bit more credit than that. This might be my favorite MCU film, and I know it's so stupid because I just saw it. But 10 years later, the fact that the Russo brothers were able to put 40 characters plus together and it not seem like a jumbled mess, Last Jedi, and it still like came out intriguing, and it was 3 hours long, and it didn't seem long at all. I mean, I guess you could cut out a few things here and there, but there's definitely no Canto Bite scene. How the hell are they pulling this off still?
They're just amazing directors. I mean, I think that they I think they started out strong with Winter Soldier, which is probably still my favorite MCU movie. But my top three favorites are Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Infinity War. I mean, like maybe not in somewhere in that order, but all the Russo brothers films are my favorites. I think that they kicked it off strong, and then with Civil War, they were able to juggle these characters in a way that didn't feel like a big mess. And so I think it built their confidence and their ability to like take on the whole Marvel universe in one movie. So I think that they come from TV where they're used to dealing with a lot of characters at once, and I think that shows.
Yeah, and this is definitely of course we got so many teases of Thanos coming, Thanos this, Thanos that. This is Thanos's movie. As much as it is an Avengers movie, this is a Thanos movie through and through. And Josh Brolin, even though he's a big CGI monster, he showed so much emotion. The effects were just absolutely incredible. Of course, that's just a given. But he just kind of, completely stole the show. He was electric in every frame he was in, and he didn't even do like an over the top. He did kind of a more subtle, emotional type Thanos than I was expecting.
Yeah, and that comes kind of out of Infinity War, like or Infinity Gauntlet, like the comic book, because that story is very much Thanos' story, and so it's a lot of that book is from his perspective, and that's what they did for this movie. They just made it. A lot of it is from Thanos' perspective, which allows you to understand where he's coming from and relate to him, which kind of makes him, maybe it's debatable as far as like best MCU villain. I would put Killmonger up there and definitely Loki, but as far as his motives, I think his motives are extremely clear. Maybe a little bit. I don't think that killing off half the universe brings balance to it, but
no, it literally brings balance.
But it makes sense. Like his reasoning behind it, everything that he wants to do, is different from the comic book. But what they've been able to do in this live action sense, I think works for the cinematic universe they've created. Because in the comic book series, he just kind of does it all to impress Lady Death, and Lady Death isn't even involved in this. But the Lady Death, like the tie-in there is they kind of used Gamora as almost like that Lady Death character just for that moment and that sequence, like to actually show Thanos' compassion and that he can love. I thought they utilized that really well, and the imagery in that scene is very reminiscent of the panels in the comic with him and Lady Death sitting in front of this altar.
Are you talking about when he's getting her as a child, or
when he sacrifices her?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And I mean that had some, even with all those pieces of the familiar, cast of characters. We have the original Avengers, we have kind of the newer Avengers, and then it even is able to throw in some cameos, like a Red Skull played by freaking Ross Marquardt from Walking Dead. That was I forgot that he was in it. I'm like, oh shit! I thought Hugo Weaving didn't want to do these movies anymore. So that was a nice little thing to see Red Skull. I don't know what the hell he's doing up there. It's not like he has Wi-Fi. I mean, that's got to be a pretty boring gig.
Yeah, the Red Skull cameo really threw me for a loop. I have concerns about it, but I was so stoked that I think my fist went up in the air when I was seeing it in theaters. The Red Skull cameo definitely, it's a character I've been wanting to see back since the first Avenger, and the dude from The Walking Dead doing it. I had actually to look it up and figure out who was doing the voice, because I was like, it sounds kind of like Hugo Weaving, but it's definitely not Hugo Weaving. Like I knew it wasn't him, but that's one of my concerns with the movie. This movie as a whole, I thoroughly enjoy from beginning to end, but I do have like moments of concern going forward, and I hope that this isn't just a one-off cameo for Red Skull. Just to it's nice to know what happened to him and where he went, but I think that it's almost pointless to bring him back if you're not gonna kind of close the loop and have him like a reintroduction with Captain America at least once.
Yeah,
I just want to see a little bit of closure from that side of it.
Yeah, if it was literally just like, okay, see you guys later. I'm just here now. But right. It can't be that, because I guess his whole existence there in that place was to kind of do that, right? To show Thanos how to get that stone or whatever. But
right.
Yeah. So and let's talk about some of the interactions. It's always fun to see Robert Downey Jr. interacting with anyone. I mean, even from his first scene in Infinity War where he's talking about something about like the feeling of having to go pee or whatever with Pepper Potts, with Gwyneth Paltrow, his interactions with Spider-Man, Tom Holland's character, and then of course seeing him, Bruce Banner, and my favorite interaction was between him and Cumberbatch. I thought they were absolutely fantastic, because they're like that in the comic book because they're so similar personalities.
Yeah, they're two similar personalities, and so their back and forth is definitely my favorite in the movie as far as like their interactions. Like when when Doctor Strange calls Iron Man a douchebag, I lost it. Like I laughed so hard.
Yeah, and then of course the interactions with I think Thor gets a lot of shit, but he's just so good at this point.
Yeah, Thor is definitely a standout in this movie. He's always been a character that I've never really like appreciated a whole lot. I don't really care for his standalone films, but I always thought he worked well enough in the Avengers. But he was never like my favorite Avenger. I think that they are finally, with the events of like Ragnarok and then now the Russo brothers taking over, I think that they finally got his character like perfect. Like they realized, we can do comedy with him, but he can also have like kind of a touching like soft side that, I don't know, it's like you really feel for him and really laugh at him. I think it's great.
Well, they really put him through the gauntlet, so to speak, of emotions. He, with Loki really dying, I think, and Heimdall in the first 5 minutes, you see he does like pain really well, and then he's going quip for quip with Quill, and that's probably the funniest moment in there is Peter Quill mimicking Thor. I thought that was the funniest part of the movie, and just like Sweet Rabbit and everything. Did you expect that this movie was going to be this funny?
No, I didn't expect it to be this funny, and I think that that's a really great accomplishment for this movie because it is very like dark tone throughout the whole movie. I mean, it is definitely a like sad and kind of brutal in the sense of MCU, just the tone of it. It's very they accomplish with this movie that what I feel like every DC movie just keeps trying to do, which is like make a really dark toned film, but also allow it to be lighthearted. And I've always hated when movies do that, when they like mesh the genres too much. It's like, if you're going to go dark, just go dark. Like, you don't have to keep all these little like comic book style jokes in there. But this movie pulls it off extremely well. I think I've seen it twice in theaters, and it was funny both times. There were some jokes that didn't land as well the second time watching, but it's because I watched it, twice in 2 days. You know what I mean? So some of them didn't land as well second time, but I still thought it was funny, and the jokes, they worked. They didn't feel out of place for the characters. I think the only character that maybe feels a little bit out of place, and not out of place, but just a little bit different than what we're used to seeing, I think is Star-Lord. I think that he felt a little bit different in this movie than what we get in Guardians of the Galaxy, but not necessarily in a bad way. I just felt like he was I felt like in Guardians 2, he very much stood up as a leader, and his team listened to him, and they were able to accomplish things. And I think that in this movie, they just turned the Guardians into a big joke, and Peter wasn't the leader. He's like trying to tell them what to do, and everybody just keeps doing what they want to do. And I was a little annoyed at that, but not to the point of like it like took away anything from the movie. But I just wish that he would have been represented a little bit more as the leader of the Guardians.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into kind of some things that didn't work out, and 90% of this movie I think did work out just fine. But a character, and this kind of goes with the humor too. I feel like the only time the humor kind of fell flat a little bit to me was kind of Drax. I think Drax, from his background, I think he should have had maybe a little bit more. Especially when they're planning that that ambush and everything like that. I feel like he should have been a little bit more featured, especially giving his whole motivation for even being with this group is to find Thanos and kill him. And we don't really hear much from Drax except a few one-liners. So I thought that was a little bit of a missed opportunity.
I have to agree completely with that. I think that they've just kind of turned Drax into a big joke at this point, which is fine. He is really funny, and that moment where he's thinks that he's invisible is really, really funny. I agree with that. Like, I think Drax, his entire motivation from the get-go, from the first Guardians, is that he was after Thanos, and they just didn't really give him his moment to shine. As far as like giving him everybody kind of gets their little one-on-one with Thanos, and Drax does have kind of a little bit of a fight there in the ending bit, but he never got his really moment to kind of bring his motivations full circle, I guess.
Yeah. And even though that this this film seems like a segment of scenes, it's a couple different set pieces. You have everything that's going on in Titan. You have everything that's going on in Wakanda and everything like that. It still seemed very fluid the way, right when when I was watching it, I was just like, okay, this is awesome. I'm eating up every moment of it. And then right away it shifts to we're back with Spider-Man, and a lot of the times that kind of doesn't work because it kind of derails the tone or the mood. But I think it was the fact that they were able to, the Russo brothers were able to do such a serious movie with such high stakes, but still rounded out with the comedy and the levity. It just I don't know how they did it, and that's why I feel like I feel like this is the most well-rounded MCU film, especially with it's basically Empire. I mean, with how much of a downer it really is. I think it's so well-rounded, and I think that's why it kind of is a cut above, above Civil War and Winter Soldier for me. And I want to kind of go back to and ask you about a show that we did before, and we thought, could they have some of these MCU Netflix characters, a Daredevil, anything like that? Obviously, they did not.
Right, they didn't. I was kind of waiting, to see, if they were going to have just like a little bit of a, all they needed was like a little in the crowd with, just some of the Netflix characters. But I think what we're going to get the reverse of that, though. I think in the upcoming Netflix series is we're gonna kind of see maybe the events of New York from their perspective, or at least the aftermath, kind of like what we did when the shows first started after the first Avengers movie. But yeah, we didn't get anything there, but I don't think it hurts the film with them not being there. I think I'm pretty happy with the majority of this film. But bouncing off of what you were kind of saying a minute ago about how when you cut between a bunch of different characters to set pieces, and when you kept cutting back to Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and Iron Man on the ship, going to Titan. On first viewing, I actually thought that part drug out too much, and every time they came back to them, I was like, I don't care that they're on the ship anymore. Like, can we just be in Titan? Because I was just so amped up and wanted to know where the story was going. On second viewing, I didn't think that drug at all. On second viewing, I thought the pacing of that whole sequence was fine because I knew where it was going. But first time, that was my only complaint walking out after first viewing was a small pacing issue I had, and then on second viewing, that pacing issue didn't even feel like it was there.
Yeah, and just going back to every time Thanos was on the screen, and that's hard to do being the newcomer. I felt that was kind of the best parts. But yeah, I mean, he's just this is the first time that, especially an MCU villain. I mean, and I'm 100% with you. I thought Eric Killmonger before maybe Thanos, or he's great for different reasons, right? It was just such a cool villain, such a deep villain, very gray area, not so black and white. And then someone like Thanos comes on. But no villain in, I think, the DCEU or the MCU has ever really felt this powerful. And I mean, and that's
sure.
And that's coming from, even when he showed up on the ship and beating the shit out of Hulk, where Hulk doesn't even want to come back for the rest of the movie. He's screaming no, and I love that little back and forth with himself. But he's, even with one Infinity Stone, no villain has ever felt this powerful to me.
I agree. As far as powerful, for sure, this is definitely the most powerful villain, and it shows. I mean, as far as the way this movie ends, he is definitely the most powerful villain that has been, especially in the MCU. Definitely. I mean, I haven't even seen Justice League, so I couldn't tell you how that goes. But I definitely, the MCU, this is definitely the most powerful villain. But more than just being a powerful villain, he's a well-rounded character and with clear motivations, and that's why it works, because it's his movie. If you look at it from his perspective, from beginning to end, it's his story. He's the winner in the end of this thing. If this was just a one-off movie, it could be a one-off movie from his perspective. Like, if this is the only Avengers movie you ever saw, but you're watching it from Thanos' perspective, it's just like, hey, here's a story of a mad Titan that kicks a bunch of ass and wins in the end.
Oh, hey. Oh, sorry. I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, but so, and we could kind of go more towards kind of the meat and potatoes of this, because I mean, he forces them into some really tough decisions, and I think kind of the first one is when Thanos has Gamora. He's taken Gamora, and then he basically motivates her to tell him where the Infinity Stone is by completely just pulling Nebula apart. It's like, I don't remember 100%, but is Nebula his real daughter? I know he kind of stole Gamora.
I don't think so. think that Nebula is also like an adopted daughter too. I don't think that she's the same race as him.
Okay.
But and the cool thing about that too is that's like out of the comic book as well. He tortures Nebula in the comic to impress Lady Death. So like he tortures his own daughter just to show her like that he doesn't care. But and yeah, so it's like that sequence is really great. I do have like after thinking about it for a while, I do have like a kind of a I wish that line where that they bring up like of Nebula's like little projection of Gamora telling her that she knows where the Infinity Stone is. I wish that line would have been said in Guardians 2.
Oh yeah.
So, but because it just felt a little like convenient, and I wish that if we would have seen that in Guardians 2, I think it would have worked a little bit better.
Oh sure, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, from that, and then when they go to nowhere, and Quill basically pulls the trigger on Gamora, because she kind of makes him promise and everything. They finally have their moment, and at this point, I mean, we could kind of talk about it. We could talk about the snap, but more so, what kind of predictions. Just like I in my opinion, I feel like everyone before the snap probably will stay dead at this point. Obviously, we're gonna have a Spider-Man 2, we're gonna have a Black Panther 2, we're gonna have these characters again. There's no way. This is it, right? In some way or another, these characters are coming back. So it did kind of, I wouldn't say it lessened the stakes. It still just made it interesting to see how we're going to tie this thing up. And this is the first part of a larger story. So, you lose half your cast in the middle of it. But those, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, would just though the people that kind of died before, like the Heimdalls, the Lokis, and the Gamora, do you feel like they're just completely done from here on out?
I agree with you. I think everybody who died pre-snap, I think everybody that died pre-snap is dead. Gamora would be the only one that I could make an exception for. I could see them bringing her back, but I think that pre-snap everyone's dead. But it's kind of hard to tell at this point. I mean, because I think that what they're going to end up doing is, like we're back to the OG Avengers that are remaining. It's like the OG Avengers plus Rocket and
and Nebula, yeah,
Nebula, and who knows how big of characters they'll play in the next one. But we're down to the OG Avengers, which is the opposite of what I thought this movie was going to do. I thought this movie was going to kill off all of the main Avengers, and then we're going to be stuck with the B team, or the new Avengers would be the title of the next movie would have been just tied to the new Avengers. So I like that we're left with the OGs, and I think that what's going to happen is they're going to end up going through time. Like they're going to have to go back in time and collect the Infinity Stones before Thanos can get them. And if they do that, then if they actually accomplish that, then I think there's a good chance that we'll see maybe the people pre-snap actually come back as well. But I don't want them to. I'd rather see them stay dead. But I'm starting to think that the way that the story might play out, anybody could come back. I think that like we're left with the only question I have, and I don't know if you know the answer to this or not, and I've seen it twice and I still can't figure it out. Where is Thanos at the end of this movie?
Oh,
he's sitting there, he's watching the sunrise. Is he on Titan or not? It looks
like he's just on Earth.
Like right? I've seen it twice. I don't think it's Earth. I don't know. And if it's Titan, he's looking at Titan through the Reality Stone, because it's definitely too flourished.
It's too pretty and back to normal. Yeah.
But because where I'm at now is Iron Man's left on Titan with Nebula.
Right.
So she has a ship though, right, to get off world.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
I'd assume she has a ship to get off world, but. So he has to figure out how to get off world. But if Thanos is still on, if Thanos is on Titan, then maybe he gets the Space Stone or the Time Stone and is able to transport back.
Sure.
But and another thing is all the deaths in the movie could be like trapped in the Soul Stone. So the Soul Stone could have a major ploy to bring everybody back. But I would like to see them use the Time Stone and go back in time and try and collect them all, because then we get to go revisit all of the movies again. Like, let's go to World War II, because where do we know where the Space Stone is? Like the Tesseract. It's in World War II and the Red Skull has it. So let's go back there.
Yeah, that would be pretty incredible.
And get that.
I was kind of with you. I didn't think they were going to wipe out the entire original cast in this movie. I thought that Tony Stark was dead. I just thought that they were killing him off with everything you hear with Robert Downey Jr. I thought maybe before that they would have taken out Captain America, but Chris Evans' character, he probably had the least amount of screen time. As opposed to anyone else.
Right. My biggest disappointment with the movie is the lack of Captain America in the movie, but I don't fault it at all. It's just not his story. Like, he's going to be definitely a major character in the next half. But just because I'm a huge Captain America fan, so I was like a little disappointed that we didn't get a lot from his perspective. But what we do get, he's like the total badass, and I love it. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm excited to see him kind of have to save the day kind of now. But when Tony Stark gets stabbed in that final fight with Thanos, like, I thought he was dead right then and there. Like, I was so like amped up in that fight sequence that when he got stabbed, I was like, oh yeah, he could die. He could actually die in this movie. Like, so the stakes were definitely there, and I'm a little bouncing all over. But during that fight sequence with Thanos at the end, my favorite out of all of the one-on-ones is the one-on-one with Doctor Strange and Thanos, when he like creates a bunch of multiples of himself and ties them up. And then Thanos like pulls him, and when he pulls him, the whole world, like the planet, like rotates underneath him, and it stops. I loved it.
Loved it so much. God, yeah, it was absolutely amazing, and everyone was like kind of holding their own. Then you could argue that it was all Peter Quill's fault for why this didn't work. But I think that Stephen Strange, while he was doing the meditation thing where he's just like, does your friend do this a lot? Where, he was going through all the different outcomes, and only like one
14 million and like whatever, 609 or whatever it was.
Yeah. So he kind of knew everything, and he was very aware of being sacrificed and Spider-Man being sacrificed and all that. So.
I think that this is the vision that Doctor Strange saw. Like, everybody had to die and be sacrificed in order for them to actually win in the end. So yeah, I think that as devastating as the end of this movie is, it is still going according to the path that Strange saw.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you where do we go from here? I mean, I know directly where we go from here. Well, before that, we'll talk about the after credit scene, because it is such a fantastic scene. It was good to see Colby Smolder's character. I forgot her name in the thing, and Nick Fury. But it was just like, did you ever watch the show The Leftovers?
No, I did not.
Oh my God. This was like leftover, dot show or dot movie. It was just like where the Leftovers, like the rapture thing, and half the population.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And it was so that, especially that scene for some reason, because I guess Nick Fury and that agent are not like superheroes. They're just kind of normal people, and they get to see it going, the helicopter, slams into the building and all that stuff. But, and then now we're setting up into, I do like that the next one is supposed to be the OG Avengers movie. And that's scary, because I don't think that we're going to have the whole team after that. I think this is...
Oh, no. But yeah, the OG Avengers, I think there's a good chance the majority of them are going to be gone by the end of that movie. And they're also setting up for Captain Marvel to kind of take over leading the Avengers, I'm pretty sure, is what we're going to see. Because it's going to be the OG Avengers plus Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel.
And Rocket.
And Rocket.
And Rocket for some reason. But while that happened, right when the snap happened, and I think Bucky was kind of the first casualty of that.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was just like, even though because
right,
T'Challa's gone, everything like that, but I was just like, oh shit, like this is gonna end really bad.
Right. It gets a lot of negative, like people like talk a lot or talk bad about the end of this movie a lot because the way the industry works now, we know we're getting like another Spider-Man movie. We know we're definitely getting another Black Panther movie. Like, so people, they say that there's no stakes because you can't buy into them actually dying, but it's not about, it's the way the industry works. Like, there's no surprises anymore.
Right.
So you can't fault writing because of that, in my mind. I think that by the end of this whole thing, by the end of this movie, I think it's all just really good writing. I like that they made the decisions to kill off all these characters, even though we know. And if you're a comic book fan in general, they never die anyway. So it's like they kill off characters all the time. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
But the act of them dying isn't what matters. It's the story that's told. And I think that we got a really good story with this movie. And I think that by the end of the next Avengers film as a whole, we're going to see like a really awesome 5-arc story. I think it's going to be great.
Well, you said the act of them dying. I thought the act hit the note. You know, even though, like you said, we both kind of know we're maybe not to like a 9-year-old seeing this thing. They were probably like,
dude. Yeah, as I said, there were a lot of little kids in the theater when I watched this. When the credits rolled, there was a couple of kids in front of me that were sitting with their mom, and they were like, but mom, like they were like whimpering and like really sad, and the mom was like, "What did I just bring you to?"
Yeah, my in-laws like furiously text me afterwards. They're just like, "Well, that was a great movie till the end. That's bullshit. Why didn't you warn me?" Blah blah blah. I'm never watching one of these again. I'm like, just calm down. It's fine. It's it's all gonna wrap up in a nice, cute bow later. But I thought like Tom Holland's performance, God, like.
Dude, it brought a tear to my eye, man. And I know that it's like I know that that's the only movie that's actually announced like for Phase 4 is the next Spider-Man movie. It's the only one that's officially announced. So like seeing it, it's like I forgot all about it. Like I think the movie sucked me in so much that being like the industry itself was it eluded me. Like I wasn't thinking about the next Spider-Man movie. I was just watching Tom Holland die, and I was crying, and then I was just like, man, like they just made it so sad. Like everybody else was a little sad, but you just had to really just stick it in there and twist at the end.
And even teenage Groot too. I was like, oh God, the tree, as Thor calls him. Oh man, I don't know how they do it, but they just continue to reinvent Groot and just make him so great. And even though he's a lunchbox sale, he's just good. He's so good.
Yeah. I think that what they were able to do with Groot and Rocket and Thor for this movie was great. Like having those three just kind of hang out the whole movie was pretty awesome. I love their dynamic, rabbit and tree.
Sweet rabbit. Yeah, but I mean, and so now going forward to what comes after, like I said, Ant-Man the Wasp, man, how are they going to do this? I mean, are they going to just? I hope they don't do this. And this was my theory after I saw it. I'm just like, okay, well, of course they didn't show anyone else from the Avengers or anything in the movie or in the trailer for Ant-Man and Wasp, but it's very convenient that that he is there, that she is there, that Michael Douglas's character is there. I don't want this to be like, oh, well, this happened, 6 months before the event.
It happens. The way that it's been announced recently is that it happens during the event. Like it's not during it. Like I think that at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp is when the snap is going to happen. I think that at the end of that movie, you'll see people vanish. But it's
of those characters, right?
Yeah, of those characters, yeah. But I think it's they're on their own story, but I don't think it's going to have much of an effect. Like the events of Infinity War aren't going to have much of an effect on this story until maybe the last 10 minutes or even just a post-credit scene.
Right.
But it is going to take place like right before Infinity War.
That is pretty tough to follow up. I mean,
for sure. It's the Iron Man 3 syndrome, Like we got the first Avengers movie and it was so great, and then Iron Man 3 made so much more money than anybody thought it was going to, but just because it rode right off the tail of Avengers. But when you went to see it, it was like it wasn't this grand epic that I think everybody was expecting it to be because we had just seen Avengers. So I think it's going to be the same thing. I think that people are going to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think it's probably going to make more money than it probably deserves to, just because it's riding the tailcoats of Infinity War. And people are all going to go see it hoping for answers from Infinity War and not really getting anything and probably being a little let down by it.
It really made me want to see it less. I mean, I'm not as excited to see Ant-Man and Wasp now.
I just wasn't a huge fan of the first movie anyway, so I'm not like super. I mean, I'm going to go see it because I watch all these damn movies, but I'm not. I know what to expect from it. I think my expectations are about where they should be for a movie like that. So I think it'll be a fine movie. It'll probably be a good movie. It'll be entertaining. But I think that for the majority of people, I think people are going to be let down because they're still riding the high off Infinity War.
Yeah.
And I think that they know that too.
Well, and then right after, so in between, we have those two movies in between now and the last Infinity War, or the next Infinity War movie, and that's so Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then it's Captain Marvel, and that kind of has to be, Infinity War 1.5, because she is going to be such a big part. Yeah,
Captain Marvel takes place in the 90s.
Oh.
Captain Marvel takes place in the 90s, and the villains in that movie are the Skrulls. So they're setting up something really interesting with that, because they're introducing the Skrulls in the 90s, meaning that any of our Avengers, anybody that we've grown to love, could in fact be a Skrull.
Oh, okay.
That's something. They haven't released the title for the next Avengers movie, which I think we should probably maybe throw out our what we think that might be called. But for a long time I thought it was going to be called Secret Wars, and now I don't. But still could be. Still could be called Secret Wars. But the Russo brothers just came out and said that they would like to do Secret Wars, is what they said recently.
I would like them to do Secret Wars as well.
But it could be. I also had one point thought it could have been Secret Invasion, because the Skrulls are in Captain Marvel. I thought that the next Avengers movie might be Secret Invasion, and they'll just have to deal with that. But now seeing Infinity War and based off of the events of that, I honestly have no idea what it's going to be called. I know they're something that keeps getting thrown around online. They keep saying that it's the official title is I forget what it is. It's a line in the movie. It's a line in Infinity War. I'm gonna Google it.
Is it Sweet Rabbit?
No, it's not Sweet Rabbit.
Infinity War, Sweet Rabbit. Well, yeah, and while you're checking that out, it's in, like we were saying about, so now I know about the timeline. So I guess Ant-Man's kind of running parallel, and then we got the Captain Marvel set in the 90s, so that fixes that problem. But there are some other Netflix MCU shows coming back out. So do you think they're going to go to the line of, having Daredevil, but maybe Hogarth disappeared, or, having the Punisher there, but someone else is gone, and they could kind of explain people out that way? Or do you think they're even going to touch on that? Because they have to touch on it at this point, because they even said, Disney even said that it's going to be the effects after the event in New York, for Infinity War, that these characters are going to be dealing with. So it can't be that every single person made it out, right?
That's what I would assume. I think going into it, I think that there should be some people that disappear, like Foggy and
right.
Let's get rid of some of the more annoying characters. Even though I love the actor that plays Foggy, I just think that what they keep doing with this character annoys me.
He's from Idle Hands.
Yeah. Totally. Idle Hands, Butterfly Effect,
Yeah.
Good stuff. I think that they have to. I think that they have to make some of the people disappear, to just keep it. It is kind of, it does ride the line of the MCU, but I think in order to keep things canon, I think there should have a lot of loss. The title, the rumor title, is Avengers Endgame, which is what Doctor Strange says, that now we're playing the Endgame. But,
sounds like a Bond film.
Yeah, I don't really like Endgame as a title. Not at all. I think that there's plenty of great Avengers titles out there that they could pick from. But I think Endgame is a little bit weak for me, and I don't think it's a spoiler. I think that because they said they didn't want to announce the title because the title was a spoiler, and I don't think Endgame is a spoiler. I think it's pretty clear. Shit hit the fan.
Infinity War 2, Iron Man and Captain are dead.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. At one point, I thought maybe it would be titled "The Death of Captain America" or something along those lines. Yeah. But yeah, I think Secret Invasion or Secret Wars is probably I think Secret Wars makes sense. If they were traveling through time, even if it take Secret Wars, the comic book, out of the equation, if you're just going to borrow the title for this movie, I think that it could make sense. If they're traveling through time, trying to collect the Infinity Stones before Thanos can get his hands on them, that in itself is a secret war that's happening. So they could use that title if they wanted to. I'd rather see them do something that was actually Secret Wars, with the Beyonder and all that jazz. But
so, and at this point, you and I both speculated when the second movie comes out with the whole Fox and Disney whatever put together thing, or the deal rather. That's not probably going to be the case. So I don't think I don't remember if you and I both agreed, but I thought there might be some X-Men featured in this. I do not think that's the case at this point.
No, it wouldn't have surprised me. I mean, it would have surprised me a little bit, if they teased a little bit of something in there. But Kevin Feige said that it would be about 4 years before we saw any kind of X-Men or any kind of Fox characters being crossed over into the MCU, which makes sense because now they're building up their Phase 4, so they're gonna probably start to introduce those characters into that phase.
Are you surprised there was no Adam Warlock?
Yes, actually, very much. Only because I had just read Infinity Gauntlet, and Adam Warlock is such a major player in that story. I honestly was at one point or another thinking that Silver Surfer might show up in the movie because he is also a major character in that story. And there was a lot of rumors going around that Silver Surfer was traded back when they did the big trade for Ego the Living Planet. They got Ego and Silver Surfer, and Deadpool Fox got Negasonic Teenage Warhead and somebody else, I forget who. But yeah, there was a lot of rumors going around that they had already gotten Silver Surfer and just kept it under wraps. So I was not disappointed, but I was kind of hoping to see Silver Surfer on the screen. But I definitely thought Adam Warlock was going to be in there. I really did. I just because they'd already teased him at the end of Guardians 2.
Yeah. Maybe they'll. I mean, they still have time with the 2 films. They get Adam in a after credit scene in Ant-Man. Probably not. It's probably more going to be if they are going to use him. That is, they'll probably put him in Captain Marvel, if anything.
Well, I don't know if the timeline wouldn't work for Captain Marvel if it takes place in the 90s. But I mean,
there's got to be some kind of time jump to get her kind of caught up to present day, right? Or do you think they're just going to handle that all in the second Infinity War?
It's hard to say. They might pull a Captain America, where it's like it takes place in here, and then the last 10 minutes are present day.
Montage.
Yeah. Montage.
Yeah. Oh, well, but I mean, seriously, after 10 years of watching these movies and just watching all this stuff, it's incredible that they are still able to pull off a film like that's this well crafted, this well made. Just in my opinion, not really, there's a little bit of fat on there, I guess, but not too much. Maybe, cut out 5 minutes. I guess the film's a little bit better, maybe cut out some of Peter Dinklage's thing. That was the only time that it kind of took me out of it. Maybe it was just the accent or something. I thought it was fun to see him, but the way
it went, that scene probably went on for just maybe a little too long. I enjoyed like that stuff that was happening, but if you're gonna lose one scene in the movie, it's definitely that one. That's definitely the weakest point in the movie, but I still found it to be entertaining. I like that Peter Dinklage played a giant. I thought it was funny. It's probably the only time in his acting career where he had to look down the whole time while talking. like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's great. I liked that they used him for that. I thought it was good.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is pretty much the road to. I mean, would you score this thing a perfect score or?
I don't think I would score a perfect score. I think I would like I do out of 10 all the time. So a 9.5 was where I was at when I saw it, and after thinking about it for a long time, I think it sits there pretty well. I put it pretty much right there, even with Civil War and Winter Soldier for me.
Yeah.
I love all 3 of those movies, and I don't think that any of them are necessarily perfect films. I think that this is a damn close to being a perfect film.
Yeah, I just think I have to give this film so much credit just because, like I said, the visuals, everything, it gave you enough to look at. It was hilarious, and probably funnier than some of the other lighter toned films, which was bizarre, but it just worked really well, and just it hit all the feels. I mean, I'm gonna score this one a perfect 5 out of 5 for me.
Nice.
This one is absolute. I mean, I watched it right again, again. I'm going to watch it again. I'm still debating to take my son to this because he's right in that, 10-year-old range where it's just like, shit, man, T'Challa's gone. He's a big Black Panther fan. So I don't know if his little heart could take it.
Yeah, you might have to get it on DVD and have them watch it right before you go see the new one in theaters, so that way you can immediately be like, well, they're gonna come back. Like, let's go watch it now.
Right. Just shut it off right after the big Wakanda fight, like right before the snap. Be like, yeah, it was a good movie, right? Awesome.
Yeah,
all right.
Shut it off when Thor slams that axe into Thanos, because that was like, at that point, I seriously thought to myself, oh, whoa, is he gonna die? Like, I really did.
Oh man, yeah, I did too, and I was really hoping that wasn't the case.
Right, me too. I was like, oh, don't kill him off yet. But
yeah, but you should have aimed for the head, right?
Yep.
Oh, so good. So damn good. But yeah, that's the road to infinity. I don't know what else to, I mean, we'll be here for every other MCU film that comes out, Ant-Man, Wasp, but hopefully I'm wrong. But thank you, Tony, for joining me on this road. It's been an absolute blast.
Anytime, man. I'm excited to talk that. I'm excited to, we'll be back here, around this time next year talking about whatever Avengers 4 is going to be titled. So
yeah. That's winter next year, right?
I don't think so. I think it's May next year.
Oh, damn. Oh my God. All right. Well, they got a lot. We got oh geez. I'm not prepared. I'm not emotionally prepared for this. I'm all verklempt still. But yeah, where can everyone find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at youtube.com/radentertainment. We are, getting the ball rolling back over on our channel. We've kind of taken a bit of a hiatus here recently, but we just put a review out for, what did I just go see? Solo.
Solo.
Yeah.
That's a bad endorsement.
Yeah. Maybe not the most memorable movie ever, but I had a good time. Go check it out.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to thank everyone in the chat too. Psycho Cat, Thought Factory, Ted from Cards for Your Man Cave MTG. Come back tomorrow night. I'm going to be doing a hive mind with Tappy Toe Claws, one of the best, most entertaining and talented Magic the Gathering cosplayers around. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be having a few drinks. But yeah, that's it. Until next time, we will see you later on the next road to infinity. I didn't prepare a ending for this one, so see you guys.
Bye.